Riveting content. Empowering your life. Welcome to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. For more information on increasing your cash flow, becoming your own money manager, and to schedule your complimentary personal finance strategy, contact the Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463. Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, Dr. Ashandra Batiste understands that one of the biggest obstacles is dental fear. The vision at Elite Dental Wellness is to ensure every patient is treated with respect, ultimate care, patience, and love. Call us today to make an appointment at area code 713-789-8680. Looking to advertise? Join the Sphere's vast demographic reach of thousands of people all over the world. Send an email today to advertise@thesphere.tv or call us at area code 832-772-7789.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for Society Now, a show that endeavors to bring you riveting content that invokes, excites, and inspires. This is not fake news. This is Society Now. My name is Kira Laws, and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Instagram at The Modern Day Cindy. And this is my lovely co-host.
Hello, everybody. Happy October. We're almost at the end of the month. My name is Allison Bullock, and you can follow me at Miranda Inc. On Instagram, of course.
So where are we at?
Man, so it's the end of October, and man, news is getting hot.
News is getting hot, and I don't necessarily know if the people are ready for this type of news.
Man.
There was so many things happening between last week and this week, you guys, that I was like overwhelmed with picking what exactly is considered a hot news story.
Yeah.
But of course, we try to stick with things that bring different perspectives and also all sides of a story.
Yeah.
So it's been almost like a month now since we talked about the Las Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
And now Bruce Paddock, which is the brother of the Las Vegas shooter, was arrested in California last week for suspicion of possessing child pornography and sexual exploitation of children.
Jeez.
Apparently, a felony complaint alleges that back in January 2014 and August 2014, he possessed over 600 images of child or youth pornography. Now, this comes into question where we were seeing the Las Vegas shooter and his family painted as the all-American family.
All-American, yeah.
And they were talking about how this guy is just a normal guy. He was a retired guy. He just wanted to gamble. You know, he didn't really have any problems, no quirks or quirms with anybody. Now we're seeing his family's background come into question. And this is a lot of the questions that weren't asked at the time, really asking about what's up with the family. Okay, the family can't be, not to say they can't be squeaky clean, because people, there are some persons that might go off and do their own thing. But in this situation, it was a lot of question about who is the family of this guy? Who are the people that would have known about his, I guess, predilections? And here we go. The brother has been charged with suspicion of possessing over 600 images of child or youth pornography. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'll say it before and I'll say it again, you guys. That's why it's really important to follow the story through, because oftentimes once the news breaks, everybody has all these theories and, this because news station after news station, has said the same thing. Which is why I'm glad we kind of brought it back, because they were literally painting them as picture perfect. There was a great guy. Even the brother, if y'all remember, we talked about his interview, because his interview was, I don't get it. I don't know where this is coming from. We're a good family. My brother's a great guy. This came out of nowhere. But then you start digging a little deeper, and it's like, no, there's been a few little issues that's been going on. And just wanting to really encourage all of our Facebook Live viewers, don't forget, we love to hear you comment and all that other kind of stuff. We're on a new time schedule, so I know people are just starting to join in. But please make sure, shout out to Kaylin. Thank you so much for joining in. But keep us informed. We really want to hear your feedback.
Yeah, and then there's other things happening. I know we talked about the Republican Party at an end as we know it, because we see a lot of division between the Republican Party. It's something that we've discussed. We're seeing a lot of people really saying, listen, this is my last round here. This is my last tour of duty. I mean, whatever you want to call it. They're now bowing out, saying that they can't stand for some of the stuff that's happening. In the middle of all this, we're seeing Representative Al Green really step up, and he's pretty much pulling people's coattails. Of course, he's not a Republican; he is a Democrat. And one of the things he was chanting, of course, is like impeach Trump now. Let's not wait until, because some people are saying let's wait until the next election to start talking about, who we're not going to have in office. He's like, no, this can't go 3 to 4 years. Yeah. And one of the issues he brought up was how this particular administration is dismantling a lot of the public policies and some of the things that's happening. And so we hear Flake, who was actually Republican, he's saying, he said today it's enough. I have to step down. I can't do it anymore. Now, this is someone from his own party. And this is not the first story we heard like this. So what do you think about that?
So we just talked about this in the car. So first and number one, I really want to say here on Society Now, we really are all about inclusion and empowering. We really are about everybody collectively getting together and just making a move for a positive outcome. Right. And one thing that we realized, and for people that are, diehard Republicans, diehard Democrats, are all saying the same thing. Parties are being divided. Yes. Specifically in the Republican Party, you've got people that are divided. People that are like diehard Republicans, are like, no, enough is enough. Like, there's too much division going on. I don't agree. Right. And you mentioned this before. It kind of gives you a different perspective on who Republicans are. They're people. Right. Because, so often a group of people may have been told Republicans are all a certain kind of way. When the party's divided, it's kind of like, no, these are human. These are people with integrity and a conscience that are like, okay, enough is enough. I can't be a part of this. And you guys, it's more than just him. It's a lot of different people that are stepping down and saying, hey, this is going to be my last term because I cannot promote this. And I think it's good. I think it goes to, we're starting to see more unity amongst the parties. This is what we wanted when people talk about bipartisanship. Yeah. We're talking about, they always talk about reaching across the aisle and getting, some togetherness with them in the decision making that's happening. And I think this is what we needed to see. We needed to see more people take a stand against stuff they know is divisive and make it a public statement. I mean, he went to very great lengths to make sure his statement was published. Yes. To highlight some key things in the statement that he just didn't agree with. And I think that's amazing. Now, on the other side of that, like I mentioned, Representative Al Green, he's a Democrat and he's playing no games. He actually went to the Housing and Urban Development Secretary, who's Ben Carson, and told him, like, hey, I want to know what's going on with this proposed budget cut of HUD. You're talking about cutting $6 billion. And he was like, these are people who are actually, cuts would, be in the neighborhood of $6 billion of HUD, but $2 to $3 billion in general. But these are people that support a lot of the programs that, the Democrats are actually, they sit under, these representatives. He's like, I need answers when I go back to my constituents. I need to be able to answer them and tell them where are the cuts happening? How's this going to, affect them? Or is it going to affect their vouchers? Do anything about moving now? And the response was really frustrating because Carson was like, he didn't want to get specifics on it because he said he didn't want to open the books and look at the numbers at the time. What does that tell you? So, but I love Al Green's response. He's like, if you don't know, I will not accept that as an answer. So something like that, as soon as I would hear that, would make me think you really don't know. And if you do know, you think that it's a response that's not going to be accepted. So of course I have an issue with that because right now people are like, just give me the answer. What is the answer? Because these are, again, messing with people's livelihoods. This is just, and I think, and we've said it before, a lot of people don't really address something unless it directly affects them. When budget cuts like this happen, it affects real people, their real lives. Well, that's what Representative Green said. He was like, the problem is the whole belief that the rich need more and the poor people can do more with less. He was like, that's the problem with the ideology. When you make these cuts, you're saying the rich people need more money, but the poor people can do more with the list they have because they've been literally surviving for so long that this won't traumatically affect them. They can get off of our assistance and stay on another system. And that type of thought process is the reason why we have so much disparity between the wealth gap is so large, right? Because we can't get any unifying statements about what we're willing to do to help people actually step up so this gap won't be so large. Because what we don't realize is, yes, you're helping the rich stay rich or become wealthy, but what's happening is that you're sinking the economy when you don't consider what's happening in the cycle of poverty.
This is a very interesting perspective, and it's interesting that they have again Ben Carson as the secretary,
which I still don't know how he got that job. Not
housing and urban development. He's a very smart man,
very intelligent guy.
I mean, as a neurologist, a neurosurgeon, he's a very smart man. But I don't necessarily know if he was equipped with the experiences necessary to be able to speak
for that position.
For that position, I think it should have been someone who had boots on the ground, had experienced some things administratively, had experienced some things socioeconomically, had their hands and feet on a lot of issues, and then be able to speak to the needs of the persons who are actually impacted by HUD. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. Hopefully, it doesn't cut as deep as what they're estimating.
Hopefully.
Okay, so shout out to Twitter. I want to Twitter snitching. Shout out to Twitter because I'm so proud, right? Because I have a Twitter. I actually have 2 Twitter accounts, y'all. They're not verified yet, but wait for it. Wait for it, y'all.
I haven't, y'all. I gotta get better.
Wait for it, because I have 2 and they're not verified yet, but wait for it though. But listen, Twitter said they're gonna start telling y'all who these political ads are and who's paying for them, because they listen, it's too much stuff going on in the world, and they do not want to be in collusion with anybody by buying ads. So what happened was, in the wake of all the Russia interference through the election, a lot of social media platforms were being purchased by these third parties to run their advertisements.
Yeah.
They, of course, we're in a free market. We believe freedom of speech, freedom of press, and all of that, but also we believe consumers have the right to know.
For sure.
So in that thought process, Twitter was like, we need to label these political ads and who's purchasing them.
And how much.
And how much. Because the transparency.
Love it.
Because if you buy the wrong ad, then you're kind of swaying people to the wrong direction. And I think it's very responsible. I think they deserve a clap for that.
Woo-hoo! And for those that don't think that, y'all, it gets deep, because we just talked about this. People don't even realize the branding and what that does to your mind.
Right. It's very subliminal.
And it's very strategic.
It's very strategic. And you hear something enough times, you'll believe it to be true. And that's what happens in advertisement campaigns. That's why many of us still believe that we need Geico.
Come on now.
Because I still believe in Geico. And I don't have.
And I have Geico.
Listen, I and I'm a progressive user. I don't even know who Flo is, but I just think,
oh my goodness.
Okay, well.
So with that being said, look, we do have some people that you really can trust here at the Sphere. And this portion of this show is sponsored by the one and only Houston Housewives of Finance. Did you know that only 4 states in the United States offer financial education? 33% are more than 77 million of Americans do not pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say they do not have enough in their savings. Do not become one of these statistics. Let Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your own money manager by scheduling your complimentary personal financial strategy. Contact Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463 or email them at info@houstonhousewivesoffinance.com. Ask how you can participate in a complimentary financial literacy workshop near you. Houston Housewives of Finance are the new face of the new age of financial services. Shout out to Houston Housewives of Finance. We've got a lot of people on Facebook Live.
Hey, Facebook.
Hey, guys. It's like a little further away, so we can't
really
read your comments.
It's so far, but
we see Kaylin,
there.
We see Clinton. You're like
Clinton.
family. Hey, Clinton. And there's a few other people that we can't barely see, but just shout out to everybody on Facebook. Oh, look, Clinton, loving. I see that, loving the glasses.
Glasses, ladies. Oh,
you know it.
I'm working my library.
I wish I could say
librarian vibe over here.
A specific type of vibe.
You know,
Can I do that on TV?
The after school.
It probably wasn't supposed to do that.
I know, y'all. It's crazy. But, the glasses do something for us. And
Come
it's the
on
end
now.
Of the month.
It's the end of the month.
It's the end of the month.
Wake up.
and because we transitioned like this, y'all, stripper lives matter. Y'all, stripper lives matter. So in New York, the strippers are going on strike to protest that there are shady business practices and outright racism at the club. So the claim is that a lot of the strippers say that when big dollar clients come in, they're either not put on to work that night or kind of shuffled to the back. They're saying that the dark-skinned women, pretty much saying either the lighter or the non-black women are given pretty much the spotlight to dance,
Wow.
and the darker ones aren't actually given that spotlight. And so one of the New York City DJs, DJ K-Slay, who was very well known, he was like, what I don't understand, he said, this has been going on for a long time. He said, so when he hosts an event, he makes sure he grabs all the black women, especially the darker ones, because it's been going on for so long, and pulls them into the VIP just so they can get their coins. He said, because a lot of times these women aren't allowed to get their coins. And so many of them band together, and they was like, we need to pretty much go on strike. Now, I know that sounds funny, but you're talking about discrimination and racism. Now, this which means it's not necessarily exempt from anything. I mean, it's the job. They get paid to do the job.
It's a business. So
it's
you can say morally, you can say whatever you want, and you're entitled to your opinion, but it's a business.
And at the point where they said some of the bartenders dress up as strippers to get the money too. So at this point, you have bartenders that dress up as strippers just so they can get those dollars, which means they still don't get, these women don't, the darker skinned women don't get the ability to make that money because the clients think that the bartenders are actually strippers, but they're actually running back, getting the drinks and still doing like a little table dance or a lap dance. That's crazy.
Dude, that's that next level.
Well, they got to let me tell you something. Y'all think this thing is so deep, y'all.
Like
to the point that you would think that people wouldn't pay for a dark skinned person, but they would pay for a lighter or fair skinned person, and you don't put them on. That's weird.
And why are you looking at me so hard?
I'm talking to you
because I'm gonna say you talking to me because clearly I'm not like light bright, honey. I'm medium brown. Let's get that clear.
And this commercial is right.
You guys, so look, this is getting good. This is getting really, really
Stripper
good.
lives matter.
Because stripper lives matter. And we say this because it's news. Why? Because it's a business.
And it's not to be taken lightly.
And it's really not, because guess what? Racism is everywhere. And so this is a part of our show that's really talking about real news that matters. And we want to make
fake news.
Not fake news. And we really want to make sure that you tune in. So make sure that you subscribe to our show on all major platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Did y'all hear that we were on iHeart?
And we are on now on iHeartRadio. Whoop, whoop. So we are super excited. We love it. Make sure that you review our show, share it, you guys, your feedback and your participation, we want you to be a part of this family because it really is. We really appreciate all of your feedback. We just appreciate you. So don't forget to donate to this amazing mission. We really are about trying to make a change, guys, just in the world, globally. So don't forget, you can donate at the Sphere at www.thesphere.tv/donate.
And y'all definitely have to keep listening, because let me tell you something. We're going to talk about, has Don Lemon gone from the sunken place to a saved place, y'all?
Baby,
we got to talk about that
that's
sunken
when
place.
It gets deep.
Ooh,
so with that being said, we're not going to say goodbye. We're going to see you next
later.
time. Take care, guys.
But no, seriously though. So now people are really trying to wonder, has he arisen from the sunken place?
Baby.
And is he in a saved place now? So last week, Don Lemon gave a very emotional open letter to President Trump, pretty much telling him to back off of how he was treating the wife of the slain military personnel, Sergeant LaGeorge, I think LaGeorge Johnson. Was it Johnson? Mm-hmm. Okay. And he was pretty much saying, and they need to pretty much be more sensitive to the wife and also to the representative who was, speaking on her behalf. To take it a step further, now people are really starting to examine Don Lemon's growth in 2017. Because, some years back, Don Lemon was not necessarily what we would consider our representative, although he had a major platform on CNN. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of times especially when it came to some of the violence against the young men, that he did not necessarily say the things that many of us wanted to hear him say. Yeah. Now there's been a switch, especially with the onslaught of, again, some of the things that happened with, this election. He's been very vocal about what he's not going to stand for, and he really does go after him. And so I think it's interesting to see that Don has arisen from the sunken place. What do you think about Don's rise?
So this is one thing I love about this climate. Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay.
It's so good.
It's okay. She hasn't had it in a long time.
I had Starbucks in a long time. So this is my thing. One thing about today's social climate, it makes you pick or choose a side, whether you like it or not. It does. So if you're looking at politics, if you're looking at sports, you start seeing the division. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, either I'm going to stand up for it or I'm going to kneel down for it. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of applaud Don Lemon for it, because I'm like, I think it triggered something like, oh man, look, okay, enough is enough. I'm mad that it kind of took him a little bit longer, but I'm kind of like, at least he got there. You know what I mean?
And I think for him, it was more of, I think when President Obama was in office, a lot, especially persons of color who had major media platforms, tried their best to stay impartial, and they tried their best to not look like they were taking sides. Even our president, he did his best to make sure I'm not taking sides. I'm for the people, right?
Because he had to.
And I think some of these media personalities felt like they had to too. They was like, I can't always say this because I'm a black person. I can say this because I'm a person. But now things have gotten so extreme. It's kind of like, no, I'm going to say something because it's not right.
Yeah, because nobody else is saying anything.
Nobody else is saying anything. And if I don't say anything, effectively, I am in the sunken place, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is his way of letting us know, like, listen, I'm not who y'all thought I was. I'm about that life. And and I appreciate Don for that. I know it takes a lot, especially now that we're seeing a lot of anchors get, all this pushback from persons you wouldn't think is paying attention to him. I appreciate his stance on a lot of things, and I know it takes a lot to be that person. So shout out to Don Lemon.
Seriously. Now,
Nick Cannon issues a warning to parents, and he's pretty much saying, hey, keep your kids away from Hollywood as long as you possibly can. Don't let your kids be corrupted by Hollywood. Now, of course, we know Hollywood has undergone major heat recently based upon a lot of the major movie executives and those persons in positions of power being accused of sexual assault and whatnot. And we know that this is something that persons have been talking about for years, but it's not until recently that a lot of celebrities are now coming out speaking about things that they've seen and or experienced in Hollywood. Unfortunately, it's one of those, it's the worst kept secret things, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like Nick Cannon has said it. Justin Bieber has said it. Courtney Love has said it. Like, what do we need to do to impress upon our parents and guardians to make sure they keep a watchful eye out on their kids, whether they're a child star or not? What do we do? So
I think that one of those things is you got to realize, you guys, Hollywood is a whole different world. So kids, although they're kids, they're almost treated like adults. Yes. And their exposure to different things. And if they're very successful, money brings about a different type of exposure, which is why, unless you are, I hate to say this, not only a stable child, but also a stable parent, Hollywood may not be the route for you. Why? Because think about, I want you to just look back and just over the news, how many child actors have become suicidal? How many children?
Too many.
And you guys, it's not, and for those of you like, I've never heard that, do some research. Just kind of Google some of the people that you kind of grew up watching with. I'm not saying a lot of them, but people that you never thought would commit suicide are committing suicide. And all of them have said the same thing, that it's kind of like once you get exposed to this level and all of a sudden, if you're no longer successful, some people can't handle it. Or if it takes a lot to maintain that because it's a lifestyle. That a lot of people, that's really not a true lifestyle. You see what I'm saying?
And I feel it's so sad because you think about how impressionable young persons are, and you think about persons who grew up in that type of life cycle, and once they have been used to a point where they're not even good for the industry anymore, they don't have focus, and then they turn to other things for, love, which is the drugs and things like that, or they try to medicate or numb themselves. So I just think it's really sad, and I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we do our part to ensure that some of the persons going to Hollywood, whether young or old, are wise up, and we need to put more responsible people in positions of power. And that's just the end of that.
Let's just be real with that.
Let's put responsible people in position of power. Now we know that trolls are ugly, but we're not going to talk about that. Yeah. What we're going to talk about is a book deal for Cap. What's up?
Come on! Woo!
Okay, so Colin Kaepernick has been shopping book deals because who not wants to hear this story? I want to hear the story about how he started off with a vision of what would be a peaceful protest, and it turned on its head because people think it's everything but what it really is.
Man.
I want to read that book. To be honest with you, I feel like a lot of white people want to read the book. Black people
everybody wants to know.
Blue people want to read the book. Red people want to read the book.
The rainbow. Everybody in the rainbow wants to read this book.
I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to read the book. So I think it's amazing that he's shopping his book deal. I'm sure somebody's going to pick it up. I hope it gets picked up for more than $1 million because it's worth more than $1 million. Because this is history in the making. We are watching history, you guys. He is one of the few martyrs that are living, right? He's definitely a historian, and in our modern day, he's a historian making change, and we get to sit here and watch him do this, and he's doing it. and he's doing it with so much grace and so much elegance. So we just shout out to Cap. I hope he gets a book deal.
Yes, yes.
Shout out to everybody that's been supporting him, and we're going to talk more about that support.
Yes, yes.
But in the meantime,
this
this portion of the show is sponsored by Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, our vision is to create a welcoming practice that will offer exceptional dental care and a lifetime of dental wellness. We're committed to the finest possible oral care and the overall health and well-being of our patients. Elite Dental Wellness is built upon a foundation of integrity, expertise, and service. Through our commitment to modern dentistry, continuing education, and a friendly atmosphere, we strive to make our patients feel that they are a part of our family. Dentistry can be scary, daunting, and uncomfortable. Dr. Baptiste and her team work tirelessly to ensure your comfort. Make your appointment today with Dr. Ashandra Baptiste at Elite Dental Wellness at 713-789-8680. The number again is 713-789-8680. Shout out to Elite Dental Wellness.
Ooh.
Hey. But back to this, everything matters, right? And in terms of Colin Kaepernick, I like hearing persons come out and support him. Michael Strahan has been the latest person to say that, he doesn't believe that the players should be punished for not standing during a protest. He thinks that what the protest is a smart thing. He thinks that the vision or the initial idea behind a protest has gotten lost. And he's like, look, they're going to make us believe what they want us to believe. They want us to believe it's what it really isn't, right? And we've talked about this several times. It's the switcheroo. It started off with one thing, but all of a sudden it became about something it's never been about, almost like overshadowing the fact that we have too many people dying, right? So what are your thoughts? I mean, shout out to Michael Strahan for saying this. He is an alum of Texas Southern University. He is a fighting tiger, but But outside of that,
so I think it's just interesting because we just talked about this again. He said the best thing. I think the crazy thing is the reason for the protest has been completely lost in all this, which is what I think, because of media, because of all these different stories on, not representing the flag, or not saying that they stand up for the United States of America, not saying that they're for police. What they're saying is they're tired of the injustice of people being killed just because of the color of their skin. That's it.
Yeah.
You guys, that's it. And I think that people just can't accept that. You know why? Because it's dealing with racism is still very uncomfortable for this society. People, it's different now because you can talk about it in public, but to actually deal with it is something totally different. Right. To deal with it takes a lot. You know why? Because to deal with it requires change.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't ready for that change.
Absolutely.
A lot of people weren't ready for us. They wanted us to stay segregated.
Unfortunately.
For some people, it would have been like, let's be real, that there were some people that were fighting against getting everybody together. They were like, well, I don't get what's the problem with segregation. So the fact that, and I hate to say this, think about it. You've been in restaurants before and you can see people that are uncomfortable with certain types of people there. You can see the look on their face, and it's just this immediate discomfort, especially when it's heavily populated with one particular color.
And isn't that an interesting thing? I mean, and it's sad because now, I find myself thinking more about it than I did in the past. And granted, we're not that far removed from slavery. We're not that far removed from the civil rights movement. We're not that far removed from a lot of things that help shape our freedoms as we know them today, not necessarily as our parents saw them, and especially not as our grandparents saw them and their parents. But when you think about it from that perspective, what is going to happen in this generation, in this era, that's going to shift it for our kids? You know what I mean? Like I think about that all the time. Now I think it's going to shift for the greater good for sure. But it's interesting to know that we have to go through a time of it's totally weird because we have social media and we have the internet where a lot of persons, of course, they didn't have that then. So they didn't have the benefit of having this free conversation.
I'm all like,
this free conversation about, justice, injustice. So we have, I think it's more of a chance for real change to happen this go around. Yeah. Because everybody's being exposed. Everybody's being exposed. And no matter how hard they try not to be exposed, it keeps happening. So I'm glad that these things are happening. I'm glad that we're starting to get a real conversation. And I'm glad that we're clearing the way to talk about stuff that's hitting, which makes me think about this. Let's skip on down a little bit and talk about what's going on with Puerto Rico. Sounds like a little recipe for more drama. Man. So in Puerto Rico, apparently It's a person named Ricardo Ramos. He is Governor. Well, let's go back. Governor Ricardo Rossello urged the utility company to scrap the deal from Whitefish to help rebuild the electrical system. Whitefish is an energy holdings company from Montana that only got this. It's alleged that they got this contract because Whitefish has a relationship with someone that's tied somehow to some pre-Trump relationships, right? And so they're trying to figure out how Whitefish got the contract. Ryan Zinski is the neighbor. He's a neighbor, the neighbor who landed this $300 million contract to fix Puerto Rico's power grid. But the issue is that they've never done anything this major or this large. They've never done anything this large. They've always stuck to smaller electrical grids. And you're talking about powering up a whole island, right? And with a $300 million contract, Puerto Rico is now in talks to cancel that contract, which I think is very wise. I think they were excited to know that, of course, the power is being restored. But I think when they found out the details about who would possibly be involved and maybe even the experience and or professional background of the persons that involved, they had a right to they have a right to exercise the ability to void the contract because it wasn't made. I'm guessing they're going to go on the grounds of the contract is not executable because they don't have the experience. What do you think about this?
So this is one of those stories that, again, I can't wait to see as time goes by. I think more details are going to be revealed. It sounds as though it's a sticky situation right now. It doesn't seem very black and white. I agree with you. I think that it's a good thing that they're kind of like, well, wait a minute, hold on. Especially with some of these details and the parties that are involved. I would definitely, I'm kind of with them like, well, wait a minute. They may need to cancel. And that's a big contract.
$300 million.
$300 million.
And what makes it interesting, they said some people, as soon as they got the contract, Zoom, they had already hit to Puerto Rico. So there's some work already being done. It was like whatever is being done, they're going to help make sure that gets completed. But nothing after that because they already started work. So whatever they finished, I think has to be finished by a certain date.
Heck yeah, but $300 million.
But outside of that, that was the initial like foundational work. After that, nothing else because they was like they already started it, so they can't stop them in the middle. But yeah, I'm glad that somebody caught it because that could potentially be terrible if they did all that work. The government spends all that money and it's not done to scale. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see more how that story progresses.
Now, of course, last week and the week before, we started talking about Harvey Weinstein. And it's not an isolated event. All of a sudden, we have all types of people coming out talking about sexual assault, the domestic issues that are in Hollywood. Some of the people that are speaking out now are like saying, this happened to me as well. Not just women, but also men. Actor Kevin Spacey was recently pulled into something like this. He was accused by a young actor, probably, I think it was in 1986, accused by an actor of an allegation that he made a sexual advance on a teen boy in Dugginson in 86. It recently came out in the past few days. And, he's like, I'm horrified. I don't remember what he's talking about. But for the record, if I did something like that to him, I don't remember, but I apologize. He said, but I want people to know that I've been living my life attracted to men and women, and I'm coming out now as a gay man. Now, I don't know how this affects the conversation because to me, now you're 58 years old. At the time, you were 26. This boy was 14. And now you're talking about people that know that you were attracted to both boys and men and women. I don't know if him sharing the details of his life was supposed to deflate the gravity of the situation. What are your thoughts?
So I guess so you're gay. Okay.
Right.
But the age gap is still there. So whether you were homosexual even at that age or still discovering your sexuality, you were still 26 and that young boy was still 14. So that I don't get that. That's like saying, hey, I ran the stoplight, but I'm black.
Well, I think
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. I wonder if he was going to they said it was a party at his house. Was it an old school Hollywood party where everybody was drinking and drugging? We don't know. What was the young boy doing at the party? Did he look his age?
Yeah.
I mean, there's
a lot of factors.
And maybe that's why it's kind of like, listen, I'm not sure at the time. This is where I was. This is my, this is my mindset. This is always my mindset. And it's really unfortunate because this was so long ago, right? 1986. And then, of course, it's shame with that because no one actually talks about sexual assault when it comes from an LGBTQ perspective, and what does that look like?
Yeah.
And so now we're going to start having that conversation, which is really important, because there are people who have been harassed, who haven't felt like they had voice because they've been in this group that has been pretty much ostracized and almost not being able to have the right to speak on it, almost like they deserve it. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, to see what's going on. And sexual assault, no matter who does it, it's still sexual assault.
It's sexual assault, right? So nobody deserves any type of sexual assault, regardless of what your stance is on their lifestyle, their choices. It's just not right. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, Jane Fonda, who's almost like my hero right now.
Oh, you got to love her.
She coming for blood. She's, Jane Fonda for the win. And she's like, it's too bad that all this conversation is happening now just because so many of the people that were assaulted by Harvey are famous and white and everybody knows them. She says that, if you steal money, you probably get arrested and convicted because everybody knows that stealing is wrong. But if you do something that's very sexist or racist, because there's still a critical mass of bias in this country, it takes more than cumulative instances for it to be recognized. So we have to stop we have to reach a tipping point, I think. Well, what she's really saying is women of color don't get quite the same attention when we talk about sexual assault because of race. Race is such an interesting dynamic in this country. And so, in her perspective, she's like, because these women are famous and white, we're talking about it. But we didn't give this much attention so big when we had like the missing black girls. We had to go pull faces to even start the conversation this big because they was black. So it's interesting to see what she's saying on this.
I'm going to be really careful when I say this statement. Because I know that some of the viewers may have very mixed views about this, because it's like, oh, well, Jane Fonda, she's a white woman. But I really want to tag on to the statement that she said about, Harvey. She said, this has been going on for a long time to black women and other women of color. And it doesn't get out quite the same.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes someone that is out of your race to bring it to even a deeper attention, to bring it to a different group of people to communicate about. So I know a lot of people in the African American community are like, man, we've been talking about racism for a long time. Why? Because it's affected all of us in an intimate way. We may have had issues, cousins, sisters, brothers, husbands, wives, whomever. But when you've got another group of people, it ends up becoming a table conversation in the tea room, in the boardroom. And you guys, that's how we bring global awareness.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
You're right. And I think this is why, I want to kind of skip around to the scandal story, because this is why I was really looking at what Shonda Rhimes is doing on her shows, especially Scandal, because although this is Scandal's last season, she's making it a point to highlight very touchy topics such as this. She's making a point to talk about, the missing girl. She's making a point to talk about racism. She's making a point to talk about privilege. She's making it a point to talk about sexism, sexual assault, and some of the larger news articles that we've been seeing in the headlines. And she's, her whole team of writers have been very intentional about weaving in this into their storyline. And so we're seeing where last week's episode talked about the missing women, the missing black girls that were going on across the country. But they talked about what you just said. They had to bring in the ex-president to give a face to it so people would start paying attention, so that the woman who was looking for a daughter was finally found. It took a white male to be the face of the search, to give voice to it. And this is what you're talking about. Sometimes it's not enough for us to get involved. And this is the conversation a lot of black persons are having. Like, black people, when it comes to us and being disenfranchised, we're always expected to jump on the bandwagon when it comes to someone being challenged about equality.
Yeah.
Whether it's women, men, race, gender, whatever it is, we're always expected. But when it's something exclusively to us about our race, it's very hard for us to find allies outside of our race. And that's why it's really important for us to find persons that will walk with us on this journey, who are not afraid to say, hey, that's not right. And I will use my platform to talk about it, to bring voice to it. And that's what makes the Colin Kaepernick so important. And that's why seeing people take a knee who don't look like us is so important, because that means I stand for equality. I don't, I kneel for equality. I kneel against it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just that question of what is it going to take?
And so, we talk about this all, on the show. It's sometimes about the conversation, having the conversation with somebody that doesn't look like you, because guess what? The moment that you have that conversation with them, you never know who they may bring it back to to have that conversation with. So sometimes the conversation can't just happen among those that look like you. Sometimes you have to be okay, especially with people who have a genuine interest. There was a church that we were a part of, and one of the things that they did is they did a conference call when all these injustices were going around. They did a prayer call, but they also had a meeting to understand, because people that were not the same color really didn't understand and wanted to know. And those are the kinds of conversations that you got to encourage to bring it to a different light. So here we go.
I mean, this is true, and this is why we have a network like the Sphere. And this is, it's important for us to have this network. So this portion of our show is sponsored by the Sphere.
Yes.
Are you starting a business and looking for a place to advertise? Do you have a need to reach out to thousands of people across the world to build your brand or sell your product? If so, get your product placement and advertising needs handled right here at the Sphere. We offer a wide variety of content delivery platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Plus, we have a vast demographic reach within the United States, as well as modern countries across the globe. Our enriched content and inspiring dialogue, coupled with your strategic ad, is surely to hit the mark every time. Call us today at area code 832-772-7789, or send an email over to advertise@thesphere.tv. Again, the number is 832-772-7789, or email us at advertise@thesphere.tv. Thank you.
Woo-hoo. The Sphere is, like you guys, legit a great place to really sow some soil or to bring on different things. So just look us up. It's a lot of stuff that's going on here. So,
and then so much. We have so many great topics to discuss on the show, and it's like so many. I don't necessarily know if. Well, I'll say this, because it's such a rich. This has been a crazy news week. Let's just hit some of these real quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. So last week, a white assistant principal quit his job after assaulting a black boy for cutting a lunch line.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And it was caught on tape, because this is what students do. They do record. And the little boy was 15 years old. He was like 100 pounds. And the principal tackled him to the ground, pinned him against the wall, and bent his arm back. Now, what makes this story very interesting is the young man's last name was Pemberton. The assistant principal's last name was Thomas Bacon. In this particular county, Pemberton, the 15-year-old, was charged with assault on a school official, while the administrator wasn't charged at all. I don't know, y'all, that I agree that this is happening, but we know it happens all the time. And I'm glad someone recorded it. I hope that the charges are dropped, but I don't necessarily know why he was charged. The young man was charged with assault. He clearly is not in a position to assault, and look how little he is.
So this is one of those things where,
how aggressive could he possibly be?
And you got all those people around you, number one.
And excuse me, let me put this in. And the young man said, "I can't breathe."
And y'all, that's a real sensitive statement. So it's interesting how laws work from county to county to county. And how there's the written law, and then there's that unwritten law from county to county to county. So this is one that I'm with you. I really hope the charges are dropped, because just off the video footage that I've seen, I'm not a lawyer, I've never went to law school, but I think it's pretty clear. But
this is for cutting a lunch line. Now, how many people? Now, y'all know, high school, middle school, whatever. You got your friend in the line. They're like, "Come over here." You know what I mean? Like, but what was it worth tackling them to the ground? Was it worth, causing that much of an uproar because he got in front? What was it worth it? Could anything
was he
else?
One of those kids that constantly did it? And if that's the case, is there a different way that you could have handled it versus putting your hands on this man, this young boy, 15-year-old boy?
Yeah, I think that's totally outrageous. It's ridiculous.
That's a lot.
He did resign his position.
Of course.
I hope this is not a situation where, after this all clears up, that he's offered a job somewhere else, because this is kind of telling of. This is just overly aggressive behavior. And again, it's a young boy, a young African-American boy who, if these charges aren't get dropped, he will have a record. So
at 15, that will follow him
as some type of delinquent. And he's not a delinquent. He was just a kid that probably made a mistake that day.
A kid.
Yeah. So I just, would just be in prayer for the state of our country and how people handle kids, and hopefully they handle them all the same.
Yeah.
Not based on color. Now, in the midst of all this sex talk and all the sexual assault talk, no one is exempt. So in Florida, There was over 200, almost 300 arrests made in a human trafficking online prostitution sting. Amongst the persons arrested were doctors and cops. Now, no tricks, no treats. No, it doesn't surprise me. Let me tell you why it doesn't surprise me. Because these people are human. Not because they perfect, not because they're certified, special, they got special badges or special licenses, because they're human. And human beings are flawed at best. Now, how you get yourself involved in a prostitution sting, how do you get yourself involved in sex trafficking? I don't know. But according to the sheriff's office, 51 of the arrests were related to those who advertised as prostitutes online. 209 of the arrests were those who solicited undercover detectives posing as prostitutes. 17 arrests were made for other offenses. But I'm trying to figure out 277 persons arrested in a prostitution / sex trafficking sting in Florida. And this is happening everywhere. We're in Houston. We record in Houston. And we are, I guess, the sex trafficking capital of the United States. Yeah. And we've heard stories like this here in Houston, but I'm just trying to figure out, how do we stop the stories? And I feel so bad because a lot of the young women that are in these situations were kind of drug into them naively, and now they don't know how to get out.
And for those that don't know, majority of those that are doing sex trafficking, those that are involved, that are being used, typically are held against their will. Yeah. They're pretty much captured when they're young
and drugged,
and then drugged, and literally drugs become a coping mechanism, and then they become codependent on whomever is the ringleader for all their resources. So, for those of you, and I'm going to speak to both of you, for those of you that actually do solicit prostitution and all that other kind of stuff, know that you're feeding into that cycle. If you have a family, that could be your daughter or your son.
Yeah, because it's not gender.
It's not, because they're using.
It's not male or female. It's both is being used.
Both are being used. And for those that were arrested, people are always saying, well, what can I do to stop? Number one, stop getting prostitutes. And number two, if you see it, because for some people it's a trigger. So it may be somebody that may be depressed or lonely, or somebody that was kicked out the house, and they just need money. They need quick money. They need fast money. You guys just pay attention. Pay attention to the news. But it's pretty evident in Houston. Certain streets are known to be a certain type of stroll.
Catwalks.
The catwalks. We're going to say catwalks. The catwalks, and they're known, and you guys can see them. Not at night.
In daytime.
Like, I'm talking about going into Popeyes. And there may be a church on one corner, and they may be literally across the street. So it's, you guys, it's everywhere. People just think it's in third world countries. Man, it's heavy in the United States, and it's heavy in Houston. So shout out to Operation No Trick, No Treats. Hilarious, the name, but it's got to stop somewhere. So shout outs to Florida police for doing this operation to at least put a dent into it.
At least a dent. Because once you get arrested for something like this, it's on your record.
It definitely is.
And you can't really, hopefully these people stay employed, but if you try to get a new job, that's problematic.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about the Freudian slip that was heard across the world. I'm in Houston. We are in the middle of trying to crack this World Series, y'all.
Go Astros! Sorry.
Right. And in the middle of all of this, we have the Texans having to deal with the owner, Bob McNair, and his comment, which was, we can't have the inmates running the prison. And he said it during the owners' meeting. It was reported out. And now the Texans players last week considered a walkout over his comment. Not only 10 persons actually walked out of practice on Friday. But yesterday at the game, we saw the majority of the players kneel, with the exception of a few. I know this is one that burned your hide.
It did.
Because this is the first time I think we saw unity, but this also was a turning point, because I think for so long people thought the players were making up this stuff in their head. I think for a lot of the players, not even those that play for the Texans, they were really hurt, because this is something that you would think it might be a prevailing thought with a lot of owners, right? Because we already had beef with Jerry Jones, right? Because Jerry Jones was pretty much, listen, you're not about to kneel.
Oh no.
On my team, you do that, then we have a problem, type of thing.
It made it very clear.
It made it very clear. Although the owners and the NFL did not come into a staunch decision that they had to stand for the national anthem, because you can't make people, because everyone is not, you can't, that goes against everything that the flag and the Constitution is about.
Yeah.
So this is where the issue lies, because now we have an owner that said this, and he said, I should not have said that. But it's kind of like what you spoke your heart, because that was a comment that was well thought out. And it clearly probably was repeated a few times before it came out in that meeting, because it was said, it was said like it was, normal. Now, the question is, who's the inmates?
Do you really want to go there?
I mean, because a lot of these players is like, I live a really clean life, so I'm trying to figure out who are you referring to?
So, Bob McNair, shame on you. Like, just shame on you.
That was very irresponsible.
It was irresponsible. It was insensitive. And you are a person not only of power, but you have been blessed with the ability to own a team. And, of course, we're proud Houston Texans supporters. We love the Texans. We live in Houston.
Absolutely.
But the fact that we can't have these inmates running the prison, that whole statement, first and foremost, you better be glad you still got people on the team. Let's be real. Because if this was not the NFL, and if this was said at a regular 9 to 5, you may not have a company anymore.
No, because and that's where it gets sticky, because these guys get paid so much money.
So much money.
And that lets you
but
know
not as much as the owner, let's be clear.
That's when they get paid so much money, but that lets you know how much money the owner has.
Man.
They get paid so much money that even that amount of money is not enough for them to walk away.
And I think, glad you said that. So this is where where I'm kind of torn. As of today, I have not made as much as an NFL player. As of today.
It's coming soon.
Coming soon. I received that. But you see these players that are like, I'm sure parts of them, I'm just speaking my mind, will probably really want to quit. Like, I'm tired of this. But they're feeding a family. This is their lives, and this may be their passion. And it's not like they can go to another team, because the owners probably may be thinking the same thing over there.
Yeah.
Because this is something that's plaguing clearly the NFL. Mm-hmm. It's just being brought to light now, because now people are taking a knee. So as people are taking a knee, you've got other people taking a stand.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think you need to pay attention to it. And I was surprised with some of the people that stood. I'm not going to call out any particular names. I was surprised, because just like earlier on, what's his name just said that I think people are getting lost in the meaning of behind
Michael Strahan.
Michael Strahan, shout out to him, of taking a knee, what it really means. Like, y'all, this is a peaceful protest, and people are being called all different types of names for taking a knee,
which is their form of peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest for lives being taken. These people are dead. Mm-hmm. They're not coming back. These are people who have lost their lives. Families are still mourning their deaths. Some people are still in court battling injustices that are losing tons of money, but thankfully they've got support from community. So the athletes are saying, you know what? I'm going to use my platform. I'm going to take a knee. But then you've got owners like Bob McNair that says statements like that, and I have an issue with that.
I mean, you should have an issue with it, because it's not something to be that you take lightly. It's not something that you can just turn a blind eye to. It wasn't like he said something like a slip, like he said, well, we can't have people that eat fried chicken. Well, not even that. I mean, like, what I'm saying? Like,
I would have preferred that.
But I'm saying
fried chicken and watermelon. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? But it's not like, because some people are like, well, heck, I do eat fried chicken and watermelon. But like, but But I mean, that's not a really a great example. But it's not like he said something that could be really looked up like he really didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
I think he will genuinely understand that what he said was what he meant to say.
Yep.
He just didn't expect it to be repeated. And that's where it gets sticky, because that was me. And he didn't, because that, it's one of those things, and it's kind of like we didn't expect it to go this far. But this is what makes this next story very interesting, because I was just reading, if you skip on down, I was just reading about we need more informed paths. They're talking about African Americans overall, especially when it talks about college, are overrepresented in among the low-paying college majors. Man. And this is going to that conversation about the athletes. Like, athletes like, well, for me, yes, I might have went to school and did well, but I would not have done as well as I'm doing right now. we're talking about African Americans that are being pushed into college, and they're going to these routes, but they're not informed about what they actually can do. So they're taking jobs or going into career paths and majors that may not yield them the amount that they need. So they come out and they're on public assistance. They have just enough to pay their student loans. So let's be real, everybody can't get a scholarship, okay? Yep. And it doesn't mean, and not because they don't have the grades to. It's just there's only so much money that's being given out and so many funds.
And it's competitive.
And it's competitive.
Very, very competitive.
You used to work in higher education. And so this is one of the conversations I had with some students when I was teaching in an MBA program. I was like, I went the law path because that was a visual. I was encouraged to go that way, but it was also an identifiable visual because I grew up watching a specific type of show, and shows about black lawyers and doctors were very popular. I never seen a TV show talk about black engineers. I never seen a TV show talk about black scientists. And as much as we are great in math and science, that part of our history was kind of taken from us. And so this encouragement of STEM, and how to use that in business is now coming back, a resurgence. But a lot of our students are past the point where they can go back and retake classes. They don't have the money to do that. They're kind of, graduating, but they're graduating into fields that they're not interested in, or there's no money in those careers. What do we do about that? How do we get more informed career paths?
So, one thing that I loved about working in higher ed for as long as I did, I worked in it for 9 years, is seeing the evolution of majors. And a lot of people, as you said before, were just pushing students just to go to college. Go to college, get your degree. Go to college, get your degree. Then it got to the point where it's just like, well, just having your undergraduate degree, you're not guaranteed to make a certain amount of money, especially if you're not in certain majors. So the awesome thing about being in higher ed for as long as I was in it, would you seeing the transition of people just that pushing students to go to college, get your degree. Then it's like, wait a minute. You need to more just get your degree.
I'm sorry.
Because getting your degree really doesn't matter. But then I remember like halfway through, you start seeing these people kind of pop up with these STEM, like really pushing specifically people that were African American in STEM majors. But I mean, I was in higher ed for 9 years. That happened maybe even after the 4th or 5th year that I was in it, because I think people are like, wait a minute, where are these kids, that are in mathematics or engineering, but so many people have been told that African Americans aren't good in math. And it's like, well, no, that's actually not the case.
I don't think, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think they were told that. It's just that road wasn't open because, again, that part of our history was not shared. I know we have mutual friends that grew up in school districts that were not predominantly black. They were predominantly white, and they had no idea about their own history.
That's
because
true.
Those books, those parts of the book wasn't shared with them.
That's true.
A lot of them didn't know about the developments that we've done for the United States, building DC and all things like that. Our contributions to inventions. I remember because of the church that I went to and the programs that my mom put me in for extracurricular programs, Black History really was more than a month, and we had to learn about the inventors. We had to learn what they invented.
That's great.
Because those parts, that wasn't, and it was more to show like you are smart.
Yeah.
Versus, I think there was a push at one time to dumb down the contributions of other ethnicities, and maybe it was. I can't say it was unintentional, but I think it definitely did. It definitely did a lot of damage because I know very, very smart guys. I mean, think about it. If you are, this is not a good example, but this is a great example, right? If you just happen to be on the corner selling any type of anything that's not legal, but you count your money, you have people working for you, you good with numbers.
You're a businessman. Let's be real.
You're a businessman. You go with numbers. Now, that's a really funny example. I personally don't know anybody on the corner like that. But when you think about it from that perspective, that type of chemists, the people that create drugs, like they are chemists. You know how they didn't go to school for that, right? It's something that innately comes to them.
AKA drug dealers.
AKA drug dealers. You gotta love them for that. But the issue with that, I'm saying, we just need more informed paths, and I don't necessarily know if those informed paths are the exclusive responsibility of the school system. I think it's the community that has to start exposing.
I agree.
We need to start pushing the right images, even in Hollywood. We need to start pushing the right scripts. Talk about informed paths, talk about persons that are doing several different jobs, not just the ones that we've seen success in, but several different jobs.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, until I started working in oil and gas, I didn't realize, honestly, how many different types of engineers that there were. That's not something that was a part of my path.
Yep.
Talking about engineering, that wasn't something that was a part of my path because there was not an engineering program at the high school I went to. So that wasn't something that I was used to. So I'm glad to see that we're having a discussion. I'm glad to see that we're starting to make the push toward the right thing, not just STEM, but all things. And parents, it's important that you find out what your kid is talented at, not just go get a degree. Because I'm one that I feel like once you graduate high school, I don't necessarily know if you're supposed to jump right into college because it is a different world. I think that you should try to, that's a time where I feel like they should have an apprenticeship program and figure out where your real skill set lies. And then, do you really want to take this route, or is there another opportunity for you to go another way?
Yeah.
So I think that's important. Now, your favorite person, shout out to her. Congratulations to Cardi B. She is now engaged. Bless her heart.
2017 has been Cardi B's year, man.
It's been her year. Shout out to Cardi B.
Billboards, and now she got a bling on her finger.
I mean, bling, big contracts. Congratulations to Offset. I thought it was really sweet. I don't necessarily, I saw the video. I didn't see how she actually said yes, but I saw that.
She was like, yes.
That hair just kept swinging. This is Cardi B, y'all. This is Cardi B.
It is Cardi B.
But
gotta give it to. Oh, okay.
That's a lot. That's a lot. She's a lot. She's a lot.
But everybody's saying like she came up like 2017. Okay.
And and it's so many things. So many things that I just, shout out to Cardi B. I mean, she really, she started from the bottom. Now she here.
And literally, y'all, that is really her story. She literally started from the bottom as a stripper, and now she is on billboards, engaged. And I just love this little thing that E! News put together. This little, I wish y'all could see Kira's face. It's priceless.
Because Allison is a Cardi B fan. I'm not that I'm not a Cardi B fan. But Allison, as y'all can see, she is. She loves all of that, all of that. But you'll never catch her doing any of that. But she loves all of that, right?
That is so true.
But it works for her.
It's sweet.
Congratulations to her and Offset. I pray that they have a beautiful, wonderful marriage and that it's filled with everything that they want. Family and kids and expanding blessings. My shout out to them. Make that money, shmoney.
Make that shmoney, because come on now. You're tapped into your inner Cardi B.
Well, it said it right there, but shmoney is not a new word.
Shmoney, but you just go with it, friend. Go with it.
But no, seriously, congratulations to them.
Congrats. We love it. And you said it last show, but I really want to bring it back up. Shout out to the Astros. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I don't really know that much about baseball, very much. Like my husband, broke down the entire game to me, play by play, and y'all, now I've become a diehard fan. In the middle of the night, I'll check the scores and check the stats, and I'm up in the middle of the night. Y'all, we won last night. I'm super excited about it. We just
have to win one more, and the Astros gonna bring this thing home.
Bring it home! I'm so excited about it.
It's an exciting time. Hopefully, this is prophecy fulfilled.
Yes,
and we just pray that they knock it out the park.
Literally knock it out the park.
And and then just this show, we want to dedicate this show. You lost a soldier from the sphere. So shout out to the family of Honey Wingate.
Yes.
R.I.P. to Honey.
That's what we want to dedicate that. You guys didn't see her on camera, but she did a lot of stuff behind the camera, and her energy, she was such a positive, just loving, really energetic young lady. And we just recently lost her, literally today. So we just want prayers and blessings and all those things go out to her family. She will definitely be very, very greatly missed on the Sphere family, and especially from us, from society. Now, Kira was literally just communicating with her on the communication device that we have. And she was just waiting for her response. So she just played a vital part on just specifically for society now. When we love her, and we definitely send our prayers to her family.
Yes, for sure.
So with that being said, you guys, love and blessings, and we will see you next time again. My name is Allison Bullock. You can follow me on Instagram at Miranda Inc.
And my name is Kira Laws. You can follow me on Instagram at The Modern Day Cindy. And remember, this is Society Now, not fake news.
Come on now.
See y'all soon.
See you soon. Take care, guys.